this book to actually be able to pull it off. But you'll see me stepping toward it with each of my books, trying to use the art in an interesting way. You know, Elantris, the map was integral, though the map, again, I didn't have the resources, so it's just like some buddy of mine who did it, and it didn't ever quite work out. And then Mistborn, we started to do it. One of the things you'll see in Mistborn is the symbols that start each chapter for each book are actually the same symbols, but from different time periods as they've evolved and the writing system has changed. So if you go all the way back, we've got kind of logographic things, and then we've got kind of, you know, brush pen sort of things till finally they get to the printed modern symbols. And so the art in each of these books is trying to do something. You look at Warbreaker, for instance. Warbreaker, the art, is actually a painting from in-world. So the art, the map can't necessarily be trusted as 100% accurate. And that's something I also wanted to do. It's actually something that Tolkien did. If you look at the original map for The Hobbit, it was the map they were carrying around in the world. And I think maps and art for fantasy books have kind of become a cliche. And the reason they become a cliche is just like, oh, we include a map. Which, you know, I love. As a reader, I like having the map to reference, but looking back, it seems to me that the art was always supposed to be part of the story, not just an afterthought to stick on there just because fantasy books have maps. And so, Way of Kings, I think we have 12 maps, or 12 pages of maps, or something like that, which are all different types of maps in-world done by different people for different purposes. And if you'll look at them, you can kind of see the different styles. You know, we've got royal surveyors doing one kind of map. We've got another map that was just hand-drawn by a guy in a war camp to get him from, you know, the potty to the mess hall, and he would just carry it around and have his little map there so he could get around. We have all these different things. We have a tactical map that's explaining a battle and different things like this. Isaac did all of those. Another guy named Ink Thinker did Shalon's sketchbook, and then we had one other artist doing some things, the illuminated manuscript pages and things like that. So we actually had 4 artists working on this book, one of whom being Michael Whalen, who did the fantastic cover. So that's what that bookmark is. Isaac actually has T-shirts and things he's selling. I would like to sign some shelf stock while I'm doing this. So if someone is willing to start bringing me some of these. I guess this display is so beautiful. I don't know if we want to take it down, but you know, maybe we should just take it, or
the ones from up front.
And maybe get the bookseller to bring me the ones up front. They aren't going to want them all signed, but I'd like to sign some of them so we can leave them behind, so that if people come in later, they can get signed books. Or if you guys decide, hey, this book is so great, I need to have 5 copies. That you can come get.
I think they've already put away the display out.
Oh, they've already put away the display?
I think I saw. I could be wrong, but I think
that's all right. That's all right. They're getting ready to go home. So we'll do a few questions here where it's air conditioned, and then we'll actually head outside, and I'll do a few more for waiting around. So I had one person I told to ask me a question first.
How do you come up with your magic systems?
How do I come up with my magic systems? One of my most frequently asked questions, and so I thought I would just put it off until now. And so, how do I come up with my magic systems? You know, I've started to be known as the magic system guy, right? Which is a cool distinction, but also it's not necessarily 100% what I want to be known as. I want to be known as the guy who writes great stories about great characters. But I will take the magic system guy as a secondary to that. Magic in fantasy books is one of the things that really fascinates me. It's one of the things that divides our genre from other genres. And defining what fantasy is really hard sometimes because, you know, I don't personally see fantasy as being as limiting as perhaps some people do. I feel that, you know, a good fantasy novel can have as much action as a really good thriller, and it can feel like a thriller, or it can have the same level of romance as a great romantic title, or it can have as good a mystery as any mystery book. And so what is it that makes fantasy? It's our world building, and so I like to make that part of what I'm doing distinctive. When I'm looking for a magic system, I'm looking to enhance the novel and enhance the characters. I'm not trying generally to make the magic system the story itself. I want it to enhance the things. And so, for instance, if you look at Mistborn, I chose a magic system that would do a couple of things. Number one, it would enhance the sort of blend between science and magic that I was trying, particularly on the dawn of something like an industrial age, which is what's happening in Mistborn. We're right pre-industrial, and we've been held there for a number of centuries by the Lord Ruler, who doesn't want it to progress any further because he is rightly afraid of what will happen if social revolution on that scale comes along with technological revolution. And so I chose allomancy. I built it very intentionally. One thing I built into it was a set of powers that would work for a group of thieves. Which, if we're telling a story about a group of thieves, therefore, what would thieves need? I built the powers that way. The burning of metals was designed to enhance the sort of scientific magical feel. If you science background, one of the basic ways to get energy is to metabolize, right? You eat, you metabolize, and you get energy. And I felt that burning the metals, as weird as it seems at first when you first read the book, very shortly into the book, it starts to feel very natural in a strange sort of way, even though when you stop and think about it, this is just bizarre. And that's because it feels very much like a natural process. And so I designed it that way to give that sort of sense, that sort of feel that it could be magical. For aspiring writers who are designing magic systems, one of the things I often say is that generally your limitations are more interesting than the powers themselves. And so once I've got the feel right for the magic, then I start looking at the limitations and saying, what can't the magic do and why? And how will this force my story to be better? Another great example is in Mistborn is the idea of pushing and pulling. Telekinesis is all over the place. I did not invent the concept of telekinesis. You can read plenty of books that have telekinetic powers, but by putting the limitation of you can only push directly away from or pull directly toward your center of gravity, suddenly we've, number one, enhanced the scientific feel, which I was trying to do, and number two, we have put a very interesting limitation that requires the characters to be more creative with their use of the magic, which, kind of plays in now to vector science and all these kind of cool things, which again resonates. Even if you don't know any of this, when you read it, it feels right in a way that perhaps just pointing and things moving around wouldn't feel right. And so it's a complicated process, but that's a little bit of what I do. Other questions? Go for it.
Is it true that all of your books, it's different worlds, but they're all part of the same universe?
There is a connection between all of my epic fantasy novels. There is a certain character who has appeared in all of them so far, by name in most instances. In one place he's stealthing it. But he has appeared in all of them, and they do occur in the same universe. And have from the beginning. What's that?
Will that one guy get his own book?
That one guy will get his own book someday. But one thing I always make sure to tell people is this sort of thing, all the background stuff is not something you need to know to enjoy any of my books. It is never the focus until it becomes the focus, if that makes sense. Like, that character is in Way of Kings. If you don't have to look very hard to find him in Way of Kings, I'll tell you. You don't have to know what's going on in the background with that character in order to enjoy Way of Kings, because the story isn't about him. He just happens to be there doing stuff, if that makes any sense. So there are plenty of discussions going on my various fan sites about the nature of this, and there is a unifying theory of magic for all of my epic fantasy novels. Those of you again who may have science backgrounds will understand that people have been searching for years for a unifying theory of physics. And one of the ideas that intrigued me when I started on this process was a unifying theory of magic that underlies everything that's going on. So you can find hints of that starting in Elantris and continuing on through all of the books. So there you go. Other questions? Look at this.